Hey there! Welcome to the React Native animation section. I'm super excited for this part because animations are where your app really comes to life. Animations don't just make your app look good, they improve the user experience, add personality, and give users visual feedback that feels natural and good. In this section, we'll start simple and gradually build up to more complex animations. So in this section, we'll cover the basics with animated API, animating values like opacity, position, change element colors, and scaling, and how to use animation in real-world application example. And also, I'll provide you some tips for performance. And don't worry, even if you are new to animations, we'll break everything down step by step, and you will get to build smooth, professional animations that feel just right. So let's dive in and make your app move like a pro. So we're gonna start first with creating our src folder. So here, let's create a new folder and name it src. And inside it, we're gonna add a new file and we're gonna name it Mario screen.tsx. And add another folder for assets. You're gonna find this Mario image in resources, or you can download any image from the internet and use it. It's up to you, just select any image. Now let's drag and drop this Mario image and paste it here inside the assets. Now let's create our Mario screen component, so RNFES. And let's go and render it inside the entry point of our project. So let's create here also a functional component, RNFES, and render our Mario screen like this. Now let's go to our Mario screen and add to it some styling. So here style equals to styles.container. And for this container, we're gonna make the Felix is 1, justify content center, and align items center as well, to center all elements in the middle of the screen. And now let's render our image. So image, and the source of it is gonna be the require function, and we're gonna get access to assets. Then we're gonna select this image, mario.png, mario.png. Now let's give it some styling. So style equals to styles.image. And for this styling, we're gonna make the height 70 pixels and the width 70 pixels as well. Let's make it 90. And let's make the resize mode contain like this. Now let's draw a line here and add some patterns. So here, under this image, let's gonna just add a view with a style. We're gonna make it styles.separator. And for this separator, oops, we got a spelling error, separator. We're gonna make the width of it 100%. The height is gonna be 1 pixels. And the background color, let's make it black, like this. And now, let's create a function to move Mario. To use animation in React Native, there are multiple ways. One of them is the built-in animated API, and you can just use it when you import it from React Native. So here, animated, just import it like this. Then anything that you want to be animated, just add the animated tag before it, like this, animated.image. And if it's not self-closing tag, you have to put it in both, in the opening tag, like this view, and also in the close tag, like this. Okay? But since here it's self-closing tag, so we're gonna put it just only once. Now it's time to create our entry point. I mean let's pick the initial value for our starting position. We want first to move Super Mario horizontally. So let's add the initial value. So let's create a variable called translate x. X refer to horizontal axis, so he can move horizontally from right to left. Translate y refer to vertical axis, so he can go ups and downs. So here translate x equals to useRef. You can initialize your values using useRef or useState, but using useState is not recommended, and useRef is more recommended than useState. Why? For multiple points. First, performance. useRef doesn't trigger re-renders when the value changed, but useState causes a re-render every time the value changes, and animations needs to update 60 times per second, and re-rendering that frequently would be very expensive. So for performance, it's better to use useRef. And it's not only the performance, also for value stability, memory efficiency, and also when you use native driver compatibility. useRef works better with use native driver, but useState can cause issues with native animations. So it's better to initialize your animation values using useRef, not useState. So here we're gonna initialize our animated dot value. We're gonna initialize it with 0. Dot current. We just added this dot current to accessing the actual animated dot value. Okay, we've initialized our initial value for Super Mario position. Now how to move it? To move it, we're gonna create a function to move it horizontal. So const move horizontal, and it's gonna be a function. And in this function, we're gonna just use our animated EBI dot timing. And we're gonna pass translate x, here's the initial value, and some properties here. The first property is toValue, and this toValue, it's the value that we want Super Mario to go to. So for example, if we want to go 50 pixels to the right, we're gonna just put here 50. Okay, here's the first property. The second property is duration, and this is referred to the time that Super Mario will take to move 50 units to the right. So let's make Super Mario move in 2 seconds. So just add 2000 to allow Super Mario to move 50 pixels to the right in just 2 seconds. And third property is use native driver, and we're gonna set it to true. And we set use native driver to be true to make animations smoother, because we got multiple threads. We got JavaScript thread and UI native threads. The JavaScript thread, if it's busy, animations will lag, and the UI native thread is fast and efficient for animations. So when we set use native driver to be true, we just make our animations smoother by running them on the UI thread instead of JavaScript thread. Okay, finally, we're gonna just start our animations. Now, let's add here a button. So let's add here a button with title. Let's name it Move Horizontal. And when we press on it, we're gonna just fire this function, Move Horizontal. Now let's try to press on that button. Nothing happened. Why? Because we didn't add our styling property to our image yet. So here inside our image, let's first format our code. And inside this style, we're gonna add some styling. We're gonna make it array of styles, and we're gonna add this style. Transform, and this transform takes an array. The first element of array is gonna take the translate x, and we're gonna pass to it this value here from our useRef, and press save. Now look, when I pressed save, Super Mario has been moved. Let's try to make it move to 150 pixels like this. Now let's press here, move horizontal. Look, he moved here. Let's try to make it here to the left. So let's make this, and instead of 150, let's make it minus 150. And let's press here, move horizontal. Look, he moved to the left. Let's recap what we've learned in previous lesson. In previous lesson, we've learned how to move elements in the screen horizontally using this function, move horizontal. And what we do in this function, we just import our animated API from React Native, and this animated API is a core API. No need to install libraries to use it. Then we are using .timing and pass the value of our animation, and we store this value inside useref. And as we've mentioned before, useref is better than useState for storing the animation values for performance, as we've mentioned before. And here we add some properties. Here to value, here is the place or the new value that we want to move to, and here is the duration in milliseconds. For here 2000 means 2 seconds. And never forget to pass the transform property style. This transform property is a style property to allow us to apply various transformations. For example, translate X to move element horizontally, and other transformations we're going to talk about later. Now in this lesson we're going to create 2 buttons to move Super Mario to the right and to the left. So here let's rename this button and let's make it move right, and let's duplicate it and make this move left. And here we're going to create a function to move left, and here another function to move right. We're going to create those 2 functions. We can use a single function and pass parameters to it, but to make things simple, we're going to use 2 functions. So here, let's create the first function. So const move left. We're going to make it arrow function, and we're going to copy this code and put it inside it like this. And the other function, we're going to make it move right like this, but instead of minus 150, we're going to make it 150. Okay, now let's see. If we move left, we move to the left. If we move right, we move to the right. But if you press move right again, he will not go to the right again. So how to make Super Mario move to the right and the left multiple times? To do this, we're gonna create a useState hook to store the horizontal value. So here, we're gonna just add here horizontal position and set horizontal position, and this is gonna be equal to useState, and we're gonna initialize it with 0. Here's position, and here in the move left, we're gonna create a constant and name it new position, and it's gonna be the horizontal position equals to specific number. For example, let's make it 20 right now, and we're gonna set horizontal position to this new position. And finally, when we want to move, we're gonna move it with this new position. So instead of minus 150, we're gonna just pass the new position. And don't forget, we're gonna just decrease this, not increase, because we want to move to the left. So this is gonna be minus, not plus. Okay, and let's copy those 2 lines of code here and paste them here. And instead of this minus, we're gonna make it plus, like this. And also, instead of 150, we're gonna make it the new position. Now let's try to move right and left. So move left. Let's try to decrease this duration. Let's make this duration 300. Now let's press move left, move left, move left again, move left, move right, right, right. Now he can move to the right and to the left. In previous lesson, we've learned how to move horizontally, and in this lesson, we're gonna learn how to move vertically. First, let's make our code cleaner than this. So, this value, we're gonna store it in a constant. So const move value is gonna be equals, let's say 20. And let's replace it with this 20 and this 20 as well. And also, this duplicated code, let's store it inside an object. So const animation config is equal to this object. Duration is 300 and useNet driver is true. Now let's spread this object here like this. This is called spread operator. We just spread when we add those 3 dots here. We spread this object. I mean, we take those 2 values and put them here. So let's put them here, spread them here, and also spread them here as well, to make our code cleaner. Later, we're gonna make it more cleaner than this also, because this move left and move right can be only one function, not two. Now let's format our code. So right click and press format. Now it's time to move vertically. So first we're gonna store our initial value inside translate y variable, and it's gonna be use ref, and we can copy this part here. Translate like this, translate y. And also we can also copy this horizontal position and rename it and make it vertical position. So instead of this horizontal, we're gonna make it vertical like this. Now let's create our move up and move down function. So first, let's create here const move up, and it's gonna be an arrow function. And what we're gonna do here, we're gonna use our animated API from React Native dot timing, and we're gonna pass our vertical value here inside translate y and add some properties. We want to move it to specific value, so we're gonna add this property to value. For example, if we want to move it to the up with 50 units, we're gonna make it minus 50 units. And also add duration and use native driver, so we can spread this object here to add duration and use native driver. Now let's try to use this function. So let's create a new button. Let's double click this and make it move up, and here move up function. And now let's press and see. Nothing happened. Why? Because we didn't add yet the transform property. So here we've added the translate x. We need also to add translate y. So translate y equals to translate y. So we need to add it in a new object. So open a new object and just add translate y equals to translate y. And press save. Now let's try to press on move up. Still nothing happened. Why? I know why. Because we didn't add yet this .start method. And this start method has two important features. The first feature is starting the animation. Without this method, the animation configuration just a description. And it will not happen, because this .start begins the animations process. And the other thing, we can pass optional callback inside it. So now let's start animation. So .start. And now let's press here move up. Now he moved up. So don't forget to add this .start and also to add the style and transformation. Now we want to move it by value. So when we press move up again, he continued to move up. But first, let's create a function to move down. The function of moving down is the same here. So we can copy it and rename this move down. And instead of this minus 50, we're gonna make it 50 like this. Then down here, we're gonna create a new button. Now let's add this button, move down. So when we press here, he moved down. And here he moved up, and here he moved down. Now we want, when we press again, he move again and again, like move right and move left. How to do this? We're gonna use this vertical position. So here in move up, we're gonna create a variable, new position equals to vertical position minus some value. We're gonna make it move value. And then we're gonna set vertical position to our new position. And finally, instead of this value, we're gonna pass the new position. See this? We're gonna copy this here for the move down also, but instead of this minus, we're gonna just add plus. Okay? And here also, we're gonna pass new position. Now let's try to move him up and move him down. So move up again, move up again, move up again, again. He moved up by 20. Move down, he moved down with 20. Move left, move right. Let's try to decrease the duration to make it 100 milliseconds. So move up. Now he is quickly. Let's try to increase the value. For example, make it 50. So move right, move left, move down, move up. Now it's task time. I want you to create this intro screen with this animation. The logo of the app comes from the left here, like this. See? Now I want you to do this. Please pause the video and try with your own. Then come and see my solution. Now let me show you how I have done it. First, I imported the animated from React Native. Then I initialized the start point of my animation and store it in useref and make it -500 to be not visible on the screen. Then I added our animation configuration to value of 0 to be in the center here because I've centered it using this container, so the 0 of it is going to be in the center, and duration is 1.5 seconds, and use native driver is true for performance. Then I created this function animated using the animated API dot timing and pass here the translate x variable with our configurations. And then I started my animation and put it inside use effect with set timeout 2 seconds to allow me when I reload the app, I just wait for 2 seconds, then the animation starts. And finally, I just added the transform property style to add this translate x inside it. Now movement animation can be helpful in those cases. You can also get this food from the top here or from other places. It can be also useful in top tabs and bottom tabs also. If you see here, remember this Figma design from UI mastering section. Look at this top tabs. It will be very good when you press here, this brown view moved here. And when you press here after, this brown view return to their position. So movement animations is very useful in your app. In this lesson, we're going to talk about sequence method. And sequence is a method that allows you to run multiple animations, one after another. For example, you can make it move up, then to the right, or you can make it, for example, jumping. So let's create a function to make Super Mario jump to the top, then go to the down. So here, we're going to create a new function. So const jump equals to arrow function. And here we're going to use animated.sequence, this method here. And this sequence take an array. And inside this array, we're going to add our two animations. Animation for go up, then another animation to fall down. Okay, so for the first animation, we're going to use, as we've learned before, animated.timing. And we want to move it vertically, so we're going to add translate y and pass our animation configuration. For example, to value, we want him to jump 1 unit to the top. In a duration, let's make it 1 second. And we're going to use native driver. We're going to set it to be true. Now, here's our first animation. Now let's add comma here to add the second animation. Animated.timing. We're going to move also vertically, so we're going to add translate y. And we're going to add those configuration. To value, we're going to set it to 0 again. And in duration, we're going to make the fall is faster than jumping. So we're going to make the duration 300 milliseconds. And use native driver is true as well for performance. And finally, we're going to add start method to start our animation. So here in the sequence method, at the end of it, we're going to just add start like this. Now let's try our function. So let's create a button here. And let's name it jump. And when we press on it, we're going to fire this function, jump. Now let's press here, jump. Now he's jumping. Let's try to decrease the duration to make it make sense. For example, let's make it 400. So jump. Now it's better. Now with this wonderful method.sequence, you can create multiple animations, one after another. In this lesson, we're gonna learn how to hide and show Super Mario, how to make Super Mario disappear. But first, let's clean our code. So let's remove all of that code. And also all of those functions here, let's remove them. And also let's remove this style. Transform style. And finally, let's format our code. Now let's press save. Now I want to show you this style property called opacity. If it's 1, it will appear, totally appear. If it's half, it will be half appear. What if it be 0.1? it will be a little bit disappeared. Now let's make Super Mario appear and disappear in animated way. So first let's initialize our value. So const opacity equals to use ref. And we're gonna, as you've learned before, animated dot value. And we're gonna set it with 0 dot current like this. And we're gonna pass this opacity here like this. And since we've made it here 0, he disappeared. So let's make it 1. Why it disappeared? Let's try to reload our app. Now it appears. Now let's create a function to make it disappear. So const hide Mario. It's gonna be an arrow function. We're gonna use our animated API dot timing, and we're gonna pass here the value of opacity, then some options. The first option is toValue, and we're gonna make it 0 to make it totally disappear. And the duration, we're gonna make it disappear in 1 second. And for performance, we're gonna use native driver and set it to true. And finally, we're gonna start our animation. Now let's call this function. So let's create a button here with title hide Mario. And when we press on it, we're gonna hide Mario. So let's press hide Mario. Now Super Mario is disappeared because we set the value to 0. What if we set it to half like this? It will be half disappeared. Look. What if we set it to 0.1 and press here? Now it appear a little. Now let's set it to 0 to make it totally disappear. And let's create another function to show Mr. Mario. So const show Mario. It's gonna be very easy. It's like this function. Just copy this and paste it here. And instead of this 0, we're gonna just make it 1 like this. And let's create a button to show Mr. Mario. So here, show Mario. And here, show Mario. Now let's press here, show Mario. Now he appears. Hide Mario, he disappears. Show and hide. And you can merge those two functions inside a single function. So you can make const change opacity. And we're gonna pass the value here as parameter of number. And we're gonna copy that block here. And instead of this 1 or 0, we're gonna just pass the value here like this. Now let's create new button with title change opacity. And when we press on that button, we're gonna fire this function change opacity. And we're gonna call it like this because we want to add some parameters. If we just add 1, it will be appear. If you just make it 0, he will disappear. Look, now he disappeared. Let's make it 0.5 to make it half disappeared like this. Let's make it 1 to make it totally appear. Now it's task time. Look at this screen. When I reload it, please have a look. This sun is faded in and this logo comes from the left. Here is the movement animation and here is fade animations. So it's your task. I want you to implement this screen. Make this sun fade in and make this logo move from left to right. You're gonna find those images in the final lesson in this section that have the source code. So go to source code and get those images and implement this screen with these animations. Now pause the video and try to make it with yourself before I give you the solution. Now here is the solution. Here is the movement animation and we've done it before. And here the opacity. We first set the initial value to be 0 and here we create a function to fade in the sun and make the value to be 1 instead of 0 and pass here the opacity, and the animation config is this, the duration 1.5 seconds and use native driver for performance. And here I use effect with set timeout 2 seconds because we want to run those animations after 2 seconds. And finally passing the opacity style prop to our sun image. In this lesson, we're gonna learn how to make rotation animations. We're gonna make this Super Mario rotate. First, let's clean our code. Let's remove those three functions for opacity and remove those two buttons and change this title to make it rotate Mario. And we're gonna change this function name to make it rotate Mario. And we're gonna initialize it here. So const rotate Mario. It's gonna be a function that will be responsible for the animation. And we're gonna change this opacity and make it rotation. And remove this style here. What are we gonna do here? As we've learned before, we're gonna use the animated ABI.timing, and we're gonna pass our animation value. We're gonna initialize it with 0, like this, and pass some properties. The first property to value, we're gonna make it 1. The duration, we're gonna make it 1 second. And use native driver, we're gonna make it true. And don't forget to add .start to start our animation. Now we are done with our animation function, but we just need to add the animation style here to this image to make this image rotate. And to make this image rotate, we're gonna use the transform. Remember it? The transform property. So here, transform, and inside this transform, we're gonna provide our rotate property, and we're gonna make this rotate property take the rotate style. And let's go and initialize this style up here. So here, const rotate style. This rotate style is gonna be rotation dot interpolate. This dot interpolate is a method, and it's used to map input range of values to a different output range. Let me type more code to make things clear to you. We're gonna add here input range, and we're gonna add the input values 0 and 1. And also output range, we're gonna add the values of our rotation. For example, the first value is 0 degree, and the second value is 330 degrees. Before I explain this code, let's try to use this rotate property, because this rotate property takes string like this with some degree, for example 60 degree, and add this degree like this. Look, you can make it 180 like this. But because we want to make it animated, we're gonna add this value, rotate style. And as I've mentioned, this interpolate is a method allow you to map input range of values, those input ranges, to a different output ranges. And this is commonly used in animations to transform values like those numbers, to transform them to visual properties, like those strings here. Because this rotate doesn't take a number. If you try to pass your number like this, look, you're gonna get an error. This rotation takes a string. What I want you to know, this 0 refer to this 0 degree, and this 1 refer to this 360 degrees. Okay, now let's try to rotate our Super Mario. So let's press here. Now Super Mario has been rotated. Let's try to make it to half of value, like this. Look, he rotate to 180 degrees. Let's try to make a lot of rotations. For example, let's make it rotate 5 times. Look, let's try to decrease the number of rotations. Let's try to make it in 10 seconds and rotate 10 more. And now let's press on rotate Mario. Great, isn't it? Next lesson, I'm gonna give you a task that rotation is gonna be helpful in our React Native projects. I mean inside real projects. Now it's task time. If you have a look at source code in the last lesson in this section, you're gonna see this code here. I want you to open the source code and go to src tasks folder, then before folder, and open this task 3 before. Here is the code that you're gonna work with. If you open this code and run it, when you I mean, when you render in app.tsx, you're gonna see this component here, expanded view. When you open it, it got expanded, and when you close it, it got shrunk. But if you have a look here, we can make this component more beautiful. If we just add some rotation to this arrow, when you open it, it will rotate to the top, and when you close it, it rotates to the bottom. Now I want you to make this rotation animation with yourself. Please pause the video and try to do it with yourself. Then come and see my solution. Now let me show you how I've done it. First, I initialized the animation value using useRef, as you've learned before. Then I added here the expand function. We just add this animation, animated.typing with toValue. If it's expanded, it's gonna be 0. This 0 refer to 0 degree, and else it's gonna be 1. This is referred to 180 degrees. In duration, 300 milliseconds. And finally, I just added the animated to this text, this arrow here, and also add the animation style property. So now, if you have a look, first let's just go to app.tsx and render task 3. Oops, I got duplicated. Now when you press here, look, the arrow is rotate. Rotate when you open it and when you close it. Next lesson, we're gonna learn how to add expanding and shrinking animation to make this component more better. When you open it, this view is gonna be expanded in animated way, and when you close it, it's gonna be shrunk in animated way. In this lesson, we're gonna learn how to expand and shrink elements in animated way. For example, change the height and the width of view. So first, let's remove all of that code and remove also this animated.image. And we're gonna create here a view. We're gonna give it style equals to styles.animated view, and we're gonna initialize it down here. So here, animated view will have height 100 and width 100 as well. It's gonna be square. And we're gonna initialize our animation value. So const animation height equals to useRef with our new, and we're gonna use our animated ABI dot value, and we're gonna start it with 1. And don't forget dot current. Now let's create our function. We're gonna create 2 functions, one for expanding the view and one for shrinking the view. So here, const expand view, and the other one is gonna be const shrink view. I'm gonna just do this for simplicity. You can put them inside one function. Okay, now let's pass it here and change this title to make it expand view, and let's duplicate it and make it shrink view, like this. Now let's give our view a background color. So here, background color, let's make it, for example, red. Here's our view. We're gonna make it expanded and shrinked. And don't forget to add the animated to our view here. So don't forget to add our animated ABI to our view. Now, how to make our view expanded? We're gonna use our animated ABI dot timing, and we're gonna pass our height value and pass some properties. The first property is toValue. We're gonna make it 1. The duration, we're gonna make it 300 milliseconds. And for use native driver, we cannot use it. So we're gonna set it to false. And don't forget dot start, like this. And for this shrink view function, you can just copy that code, all of that code here. But instead of this one, we're gonna just make it 0, like this. And finally, we're gonna pass our animation height value to our style property. And to add it, we're gonna use interpolate again. Remember interpolate from last lesson? So we're gonna create here a style. Let's name it size style. And it's gonna be animation height dot interpolate. And we're gonna pass our input ranges and output ranges. So here, input ranges, we're gonna make it 0 and 1. And output ranges, we're gonna make it 100 and 200, or let's make it 50. So this 0 refer to this 50 pixels, and this one refer to 200 pixels. So when we select this one, our view is gonna have the height of 200 pixels, as here in this output range. And finally, let's just pass this our size style inside our animated view. So here we're gonna make this style as an array of styles to allow adding multiple styles. And then we're gonna make the height, we're gonna make it animated. You can make it 300, it will be 300. You can make it 30, it's gonna be 30. But we're gonna pass this size here. Let's just reload our app. Now we got here our view. Let's shrink it to make it smaller with 50 pixels, and let's expand it. Shrink and expand. You can change those values here in input range. For example, you can make it 10 pixels. Now when you shrink, it will be 10 pixels. So when you expand it, it's gonna be 200, and when you shrink it, it's gonna be 10 pixels. Depend on those values in output range. So this number refer to this number, and this input refer to this output. And next lesson, I'm gonna give you a task, and you're gonna see how expanding the view is very useful in our real world applications. Before I end this lesson, I want to tell you one more thing. You can also change the width. For example, this height, you can add here the width property, and you can also pass to the size of it. See? Now you're gonna shrink it and expand it in height and width. Look. Now if you make this 50, now it got 50 pixels height and width, and when you expand it, it will be 200 pixels height and width. In previous task, we've learned how to rotate this arrow here. So it rotate up and rotate down. But we can make our component more beautiful if we also make this view expanded and shrinked in animated way. How to do that? I want you to do this with yourself. Please pause the video and try to make this view shrunk and expanded in an animated way. Then come and see my solution. Now the solution in this file, task 4. Let's render it and go to see the code. First, no need to add animation value because we've added it before for this arrow, and the arrow and expanded view are going in the same direction. So no need to add a new animation for the expanded view. And here also, to value, also we need to create a new function for them. What we need to do is adding styling. Here's the style for rotation, and here's the style for max height. When the value is 0, when this is closed, we're gonna make the max height 0 to hide the view totally. It's hidden. And when the value is 1, when we open it, the max height of view is gonna be 200 to expand and see what we got inside it. The last step is to make our view animated. Just add animated dot before our component and pass the style here, max height. And that's it. Now we got here animated expanded view using our animation skills. In this lesson, we're gonna learn how to change the color of our elements. We're gonna leave this code as it is, but we're gonna just add some changes because changes the color is the same, but we're gonna just add some changes. First here, instead of this height and width, we're gonna make the background color. So here, background color. You can make it blue, you can make it red, you can make it aqua, or we can make it background color style. Like this, background color style. And we're gonna define this background color style here. Instead of this size style, we're gonna make it here using the interpolate. And for those input ranges, we're gonna leave them as they are, but we're gonna change those colors. For example, we're gonna make the 0 is red, and the 1 we're gonna make it blue. Okay? And since our initial value is 1, so it became blue. What if 0? It will be red, but we just need to reload our app. Look, and if you make it 1 and reload, it will be blue because those input ranges refer to those output ranges. This 0 referred to red, this 1 referred to blue. And let's change those function names. For example, for 1 we're gonna make it blue, and this make it red, like this. And we're gonna also change this function, make it blue, make it red. And here also blue and red. Now let's try to change our color in an animated way. Let's press here red. Look, let's press here blue. Let's try to increase the time. This 300, we're gonna make it 1 second. And here also 1 second to notice. Now look, red, blue, red. But why we type 2 functions? We can make one function that allow us to use a lot of colors. For example, we can make this, instead of this make it blue, we're gonna just make it change color like this. You can also change this naming because naming is very important. This is not animation height anymore. Let's name it animation color like this. This function, we're not gonna use it anymore. And here also is gonna be animation color. You have to choose good names. And for those colors, we got here just 2 numbers. Let's make it 5 numbers like this. And let's just add some more colors. For example, green, purple. And you can also add some hex color like this. Now we don't need this button anymore. And we're gonna make this button change color. And here also we're gonna fire the change color function. Now let's press save. And let's try to use our function. When you press here, it will be blue. If you press again, it will still blue. Why? Because you submitted here to be 1. And this 1 referred to blue. What if you just make it 4? This 4 refer to this hex color, black. Now let's make it 4 and press here. Now look, it became black. What if we use this 2? It will be green. Look, now it became green. And we can make this change color each time when we press on it, he changed the color using useStateHook. Let me show you. We're gonna create here useStateHook to const index and set index. And it's gonna be useState. We're gonna initialize it with 0. And each time we set the color, we're gonna set our index to be index plus 1. And here to value, we're gonna just pass the index like this. Now let's reload and try to use our function. Let's press change the color. Now it became red, it's blue, it's green, it's purple, it's black. Now it will be black because black our last element. How those change colors are useful? It will be useful in real application if you want to build animated bottom tabs with different colors when you press on the tab or even top tabs. So change the color of element is very helpful in real applications.